end, and eventually you're going to realize that your path is going to end. Hopefully before you get there, you're going to look and you're going to see, this doesn't go on forever, does it? I'm going to die too. It's called mortality. It's a very difficult concept for high school students to understand, that they are going to die, and I'm no different. I was in that same place. When I was a youth pastor in charge of many high school kids, one of the most frustrating realities was these kids didn't realize they were going to die because they would do stupid things. I was driving to the church one day, and there was a car coming the exact opposite direction. My high school students were inside of it. All but one of them was not inside of it. And he was on the hood of the car going 55 miles an hour with his arms stretched out. And he didn't die, but I did have to kill him when I got to him later because I was so ticked off. Brian. If you want to know his last name, I'm willing to tell you because I'm still ticked about it, all right? What Brian was doing, you know what Brian didn't realize? He could die. Nothing will ever happen to me. I'm fine, I'm safe, as he's cruising at 55 on 55th Street. You know, and I'm beyond myself upset about that, but it's just a stage of life where he doesn't realize. I'm 50 now and I barely realize it. You know, we don't like to think about it. We avoid the idea of that the road is going to end, I am going to die. But when we go to a funeral and we realize, when the road gets rough and we go, God, why is this so hard? We don't even realize we're praying at that moment. You know, we're just kind of like, God, why is this so hard? Crosses can come crashing down. Jesus is close at hand. Those times can serve to make us look for more and look up to God. Brandy Brown goes to our church. Her brother died. He was about 17. Awful. But there was a corner turn that we want you to see. So listen to Brandy.
We're 8.5 years apart. We grew up in a small town in Iowa, and I kind of resented a small town for a long, long time, just because everybody knows everybody's business, everything. And then when I moved up here to Minnesota, I struggled a little bit back and forth trying to stay connected with the family, and it's a 3-hour drive, so there's a lot of things that Alex did that I wasn't a part of, and vice versa, a lot of things that I did up here. After we had moved up here and been up here a couple of years, my brother was involved in a car accident, which took his life. And that was, I remember that day very, very vividly because my husband was out of town on a business trip. And I was home alone. And my mother-in-law came knocking on the door, and I was on the phone with a friend. And she told me that Alex had been in a car accident. And it didn't faze me because he was a typical 17-year-old, and he had been in several minor car accidents. And so it didn't faze me. And she started crying, and she said, and he's not okay. I just looked at her, and I what do you mean? And she said that he had died. And I just collapsed. The funeral was at the church that I had grown up in, which is a very traditional Lutheran church. And I hadn't attended it in years. About to start his senior year, he died on July 29th. And so he was going to be a senior, so I think the whole high school was there, and you know, he's a Cub Scout and had all those things. And the funeral was very moving, but not a lot of connection for me as far as faith, just because I had kind of strayed from my faith, and it just hadn't really meant much in my life. But it did make me start to question things and start to wonder, because when you lose somebody, you go back to your roots. Well, he went to heaven, or did he go to heaven, and what does that mean, and will I see him again, and will I ever be with him again? And that left a lot of empty feelings inside me, a lot of some hopelessness, and scared. I was really, really scared. I went on a trip with my husband's family, the girls on that side of the family, and we went and visited a church in New York City. It was probably, they say it's the oldest church in New York City. And we were just going to look at it, you know, the aesthetics of it. And I took one step in the door and just bursted out in tears. I hadn't been thinking about my brother. It hadn't been anything. But I don't know. I don't know what it was. Like I said, I think that, you know, for me it was a sign there was something that I was missing in my life. been a long journey for me. I feel very, very comfortable though with my decisions now and being at the church now. And it's interesting because my life continues to be a faith-based growth experience. I wish that I had been able to come to God in a different way, in a more pleasant and happy way. But I am thankful for that, and I know that I try to look for the positive things that have come from my brother. And, you know, he continues to be now my role model and the person who has influenced me the most even after his death. Because he had brought me to God. I don't know that I would have gotten to this place if I hadn't had to question where he was at, the importance of developing my faith